All right. Here we are with week 6 of this project. And just so everybody knows, this is on a slight delay for me, so I can't quite keep up exactly with what's going on. So right now I'm just checking to make sure that it switches the screen for me, and then I'm going to cover what's going on with this project. And then so quick recap of what we've done in the 5 weeks past, and then what we're going to do today with week 6, and then we'll start working on it. All right, that looks like it's coming through. So this is what we've been working on. And what this is a place where you can trade Ethereum tokens for dollars. And you can see a bunch of trades that get completed over here, what prices those trades happen at, and what size those trades are for, as well as when they happen. And then over here, we have the order book, which is where the trades that haven't happened yet live. So for example, somebody wants to sell 860 Ethereum tokens for $265 a piece, and somebody else wants to buy 128 point something, which is now 153, at a price of $264.99. Now with this project, what we've done so far is pulled all of that data using the new Room database from the new architecture component stuff to pull all of that data into a bunch of separate databases. And so we've got all of that data coming in, and now we're trying to display it and see what we can do there. So first things first, let's run the app and see what it looks like. And I'm going to need to get an emulator going. And then while that's picking up, I'm going to switch back over to Chrome and see if we've got any comments or questions. Cool. So as soon as that gets going, looks like it's building. And so in the last video, we spent some time setting up a drawer layout so that we could have more than just the trade history view. So we've already completed, let's come back over here. We've already got this section over here, this trade history. We've got this in the app already, and it works and it streams, and we'll see that in just a second. But what we don't have is any way to get to any of this other stuff. So we added a drawer layout, and we're going to add a slider and drawer from the left and do all of that sort of stuff. And when I was in the middle of implementing that, it occurred to me that I might not be making great use of the new architecture component stuff. So for example, we're not using a view model yet. So in this, the first thing we're going to do here is refactor to use a view model. And so that should be hopefully exciting. Let's see, do we have the app yet? Almost. And also, if you can't hear me or you can't read what's on the screen or anything like that, just let me know in the comments over here on the YouTube video, and I will do my best to change it so that we can see it and that everybody can see what's going on. All right, so the app is almost up and running. I hope. Let's see what Android Studio says. Okay, still building, so we're not quite to the point where we need to worry about the emulator not working or anything. So I guess in the meantime, I will walk through a little bit of the API that GDAX being the company that provides this trading service, gives to us. So here in the API, what they give us is just, they tell you exactly how to do a real-time order book. So we're kind of vaguely following along with these steps. So and they, condense this into 6 basically one-line sentences, and it's a lot harder than that. But we've basically done this. So we have a WebSocket class where we are subscribing to the ETH-USD product, and then we get a bunch of messages from that WebSocket stream. And that's what we've done so far. So if we go to the code, we've got a WebSocket, and in that WebSocket, we send a subscribe message with the product IDs of ETH.USD, and then that's where we get it. And so using this WebSocket, we then parse all the messages from the WebSocket. And so there's 5 different types of messages. Orders can change, orders can be done, orders can match, orders can be open. So open would be like if you haven't, you want to buy, let's say you want to buy it for $100. Well, that's well below the price that you see here. So that order is going to be way, way down on the order book in the screen section. So that would be an open order because it doesn't get filled immediately or anything else. and then received orders. So just to let you know, the system has received an order. So we're taking all of these different types of orders and putting them into 5 different databases using Room to help us do that. It's really nice. Been really impressed with Room so far. Really makes this easy to do. We did have to make a lot of classes though. So you can see these sorts of classes to help us just deal with the database. But we didn't have to set up any of the databases. I mean, we just had to do this. This is all you have to do. You just define the database, then you put an interface to get to it, so a database access object, and you can use these annotations to help you get data into and, oh, we have copied and pasted something that's no good, into and out of the database. And then what's really cool is that if you make a syntax error in here, it'll tell you that you've done that, so you don't have to run the app to find out that that's wrong, which is really cool. Okay, so hopefully you're now running. There we go, and let's pop over back to here and then pull it up again. And so okay, let's try and match some of these up. 130700, so it's this one right here. So it's catching, it's a little behind the over here, but not so much. And as you can see, there's that 130710 one coming in for 0.814 some. So we've got this section done, and if we move this, we can see that we've got, so this one change that we've done for this is this, see this green bar right here? We've made it so that the threshold for actually getting some width to that bar is a little lower. So I think it's at, we can check on the code, but I think it's at like 100 or some, where it'll be a full green bar or red bar over to the right here. And I don't know what their threshold is, but it's real small. And then let me just quickly check to make sure there's no questions on what we're doing. Cool. All right, so getting back to the code, and let's just quickly look at this layout since we've pulled it up here just for folks that haven't been following along. And that layout is, and here we're using a coordinator layout. That's not what I mean to say. I mean constraint layout. If it will pull up, maybe the text tab will have more luck with, but there it goes. I'm gonna mute my phone or turn it down just a little bit, just in case something pops up and somebody needs to get a hold of me. That's good to have. Okay, so here we can see it all. And so we take this, and inside our adapter, because it's just a recycler view for all the trades, we include that, which include is an Anko thing. And it makes it, I mean, this is just a shorter inflate statement you typically use, you know, inflator.inflate, and then you've got whatever the 3 parameters are. And then in here, let's see. Okay, so it looks like the width that we're using is 80. So if a trade is bigger than 80, it's going to take up that full width. And just to quickly call this out, in Anko, you can use .dip on a view or an activity or some other things, and it gives you DP units. So if you want to specify something in DP, then you can just do it very quickly with this DIP extension function. And what's cool is if we can do Command or Control B to jump into that guy, and it's just calling this function right here that calls these functions. I mean, you can dig through this stuff, and it's pretty easy to figure out what math it's doing. And if you've had to figure out DP pixels from your code before, you've probably done this math, but it's a little easier to have it behind the scenes like this. All right, so let's close everything here to start from, there we go. Just make sure nobody feels left behind. Okay, cool. Pranjal asks, what does inflate method do? And the inflate method just takes in a view and it creates it from the layout. So the layout, you know, it's just XML, it's not really code or anything. And using inflate turns it into a view that you can then attach to a view group. And then include from the Anko library does the same thing. All right, so what we want to do first is we're talking about view models. So let's use a view model. And where we want to use it is here. So instead of doing this, db.matchOrdersDAO.loadMatchOrdersSync.observe, we want to replace this with our view model because we want to be getting the data for our activity from the view model. So with the new architecture components, Android has taken a pretty strict stance, and it was this way before, but it was a lot harder to do, that state stuff shouldn't be in your activities and your fragments. So activities and fragments are really just pieces that you use to communicate with the Android system. They shouldn't hold any of the state of your app. So any of this, any of this information we see here should not be stored in the activity. And to be fair, we're not storing it in the activity, we're storing it in the database. But still, let's try and use a view model. So I've got a view model, trade history view model. And just to be clear on another statement, so over here, we've got this match orders table. And this matched order, when an order matches, that's when it becomes a trade. So this match orders table is the trade history table, more or less. It's just, and the API, these are called matched orders. So when one order matches with another. So naturally, that's just going to be trade history. So just, if you see match orders in here, think trade history. So that's where that's going to go. Now, we need to get this view model into our main activity. So I've left it to do here. So we're going to uncomment this. And then inside the view model, we need to get the data. And we only want to get it one time. So let's, and to get the data, actually I did do a little research outside of the stream, and let me share that with folks. I tweeted about it earlier in the week. So this article here, this is probably the best article I've found so far for understanding the architecture components library, and mostly just because he breaks it down. There's all these, he's found all the classes that are in architecture components, and just explains what they do pretty simply, starting with these little ones up here and just going through it all. And he doesn't try to tie it in with Room either, which is nice because it keeps it nice and succinct and easy to understand. So if you've got the time, read through this. I don't know how much better you can do it at explaining this stuff other than putting it in video form, which I'm sure I'll be doing later. But yeah, really good article here. If you want to get a head start on the architecture components, I really recommend you read it, as well as all the other ones, but this so far has been the best. So I've got that open as a resource in case I need it. But one thing, let me see if we actually covered this in here, Android view model. Yeah, so this was a big sentence for me, is that if you need a context in your view model, you can use the Android view model class, which was apparently a link that I didn't mean to click on. So we're going to do that because we need a context. And we need a context because the database builder from Room requires a context, which we currently don't have because we're just extending view model. So instead of extending view model, we're going to extend Android view model. There we go. And that's going to add the import, and Android view model requires, so you're going to tell me, okay, so down at the bottom here, you can see no value passed for parameter application. So let's pass in app, and then we'll need to have it in here too, so we'll just go like this, app, which is an application. There we go. And then you'll stop crying. And then to get the context, instead of using this, we'll probably use app.something. Application context. Okay, cool. So there we've got Room, or we've got access to our DB, which it's not entirely clear to me that this is where we want to create the DB, but that's where we're going to have it for now. Another option we could do is create an app class, so a class that extends application, and then we could put the DB in there as maybe a static thing, so maybe outside of the class, and then it would be available to every class that we have, which we may do down the line. Right now, we're just working on the trade history section, but when we get to the other sections, we might want our DB to be a little more available than just inside this class. But for now, that's what we've got. So once we've got our database object, what we want to do is have this trades guy, and we want to make it so that we only get the trades one time. And what I mean by that is, let's see, we want this to be db.match order style, right? Dot load match order sync, which returns a live data list of match orders. So this is what we want there. And so the key here is that we only want to call this one time. So, and let's see what this looks like first. Let's just put in a couple log statements. So let's just do, we can make this a val so that it only has a get and no set. And then what we need to do in the get is return what we're going to be setting it to. So this is totally valid code. And then also in here we can log just, loaded trade history. So our goal is that if we rotate the app, we want this log statement to not happen again. We want this to only happen when the app is loaded the first time. We don't want to keep loading the matched orders every single time. Although on second thought, maybe we do as more come in, or maybe that would be covered by the observe. But either way, we'll find out. And so let me just check on the comments before I go a little further. When can we use lambdas in Android? You can use lambdas right now in Kotlin and Java 8. I don't know much about using Java 8 and Android Studio at all, but using them in Kotlin is pretty easy. And which headphones am I using? That's a good question. I don't know. They are, I think they're Audio Technicas or something like that, but I don't know exactly. All right, so let's get back to the code here. And so let's get this, and now we need to use, don't paste it, we need to use this trades object instead of, all right, and this all still work. Okay, so changing that from a view model to an Android view model did not change this code at all. And if you're looking through the examples of view model, I guess just view model examples, then this is, this ::class.java. This is just how you pass in a Java version of a class that's written in Kotlin. So you might, if you're new to Kotlin, just note that ::class.java. That's good to know. Okay, so we've got the view model, and we want to use that instead of the DB exactly. And another thing we'll probably want to do is pull this DB. We don't need to create another DB in here, so we'll need to refactor it also out of the WebSocket. And it looks like we are going to pull the DB out of here. But look, down the line, trade history view right now. So what we want to observe is view model, and I hope this works. View model dot, what do we have? Trades maybe? Model dot, command space, control space, trades. Okay, so control space brings up your autocomplete options, and apparently also the documentation, which was not helpful because we just wanted autocomplete there. So let's get rid of the documentation. And then, okay, we've got view model dot trades dot observe. Now we want to run this and make sure it's exactly the same as it was before. So run it. And since the emulator is already up and running, this should go pretty quickly, I hope. Though everything does take a little bit slower when you're running the streaming software and the emulator at the same time. That's just a lot for the MacBook to handle. We're building, and I thought I saw, maybe it was the Android Studio team. Somebody tweeted about how to make Gradle build times a little faster, or something about Gradle. Maybe I should look into that because this is taking a while. Especially when it had the dot next to it, the play button, which means that it should go a little faster than usual. All right, we built it. Let's launch him. I hope it's launching. Okay, there we go. So this seems to still be working. Let's pull up this, and then check it with our thing. And how far behind are we? 32 is down here. There's that 4.43. So let's see if any more of these pull in. $46, $48. We should be streaming in. And let's also, I guess in the meantime, come down here to logcat and loaded trade history. So there we've got loaded trade history. And just to quickly talk about that, every time you create a variable in Kotlin, it is a property, meaning that it automatically has getters and setters to retrieve the value, whether you set them or not. So if you want to throw in a log into one of your getters, you could do that. But if you don't want this log here, you could just put this, and you could cut it and say this equals this. And you just leave the get off, and it would be exactly the same code. But if you want to put something inside the get, then you do it like this. And you do the same thing with a setter if it was a var instead of a val. So if you see the setter here, a val property cannot have a setter. So that's true. All right. So did it update? No, not. Ooh, look, we got some big bars down here. That's kind of cool. Wherever those went, there we go. So there, 113 took up all the room we give it, and 65 took up almost all the room. So remember, 80 was the number we had chosen for that. Okay, so $19.32. So let's just run this again and see if it gives us some new data in there, just to see what's going on. Okay, so that's running a little quicker. And we've got loaded trade history again at 123. Yep. Okay, and we've got some new stuff in here. 254, so it loaded that, and it should be observing it, right? Yep, observing it, and then each time that something new happens, and this is a little sketchy to actually clear out all the trades and then add them all back in and then notify the data set changed. It works, but it's a little bit hand wavy and not as precise as you could be. Okay, so let's just assume that this is working and move on. Let's check this side one more time. Okay, 13, 23, 42. So it's like a minute behind. That's interesting. So actually, let's switch back and see if it pulls up the streaming side again, because it was definitely streaming before. So let's go back to here, and in this we'll just hit Control-Z a few times, and then it does that. Perfect. We can run it. And now that we ran it, it should not say loaded trade history because we're not hitting the view model, right? So this should be gray. Maybe it hasn't updated yet, but we are not using that trades anymore. Yeah, so this view model is gray, which means that this trade should be gray, and if we hit Command B, you will tell us that there are no usages, and there it turned to gray because I hit Control B on it. So it was lying to us by being purple. And there's the activity launching. Okay, so we've got 24:16. That's still about a minute behind. It could just be slow internet, or maybe GDAX's WebSocket feed is slow, or oh, nope, there, that stream didn't update. Let's say 125.26. Okay, let's see. That's 7. We get those 30s. Yeah, those came in. So back in the code, if we redo this again, so Control-Shift-Z to just, cannot unexpected document state. That just doesn't make any sense. All right, so then down here, we have view model. I guess I'll just type it all out. With so much stuff running on the computer, it does sometimes not want to do it quite like this. Okay, dot trades, and dot trades is going to give us this. Great. And then run it, and now it will presumably not update, because that's what it was doing before, was not updating. And if that's the case, I'll go ahead and finish out what I was planning to do with the view model, and then we'll come back and look at this issue. Because I think it's important to show how they want us to use view model, even if it's not quite a perfect fit for this app. I think it's still useful to show that. So this is running again. All right, 26438, which is current. Or, yeah, so the other one updated in 5 or 10 seconds, so I'm not going to give this much time at all. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's updating. That's fine. We can figure out why in a little bit, but I do want to show the view model stuff, so let me quickly just check. Cool, everything's working over there. So back over here, let's make sure that this didn't update again. Yep, it didn't, so let's put that as a bug. Let's see, let's go. Just make it to do so I don't forget, even though I won't. It's just a good idea to write it down in case I was going to come back to this in maybe the next video. So to do the view model method does not update the screen. Okay, perfect. Then what we wanted to do over here, so we've got our view model again, and if we go back here, it still hasn't updated, we get logcat and this loaded trade history, and if we rotate this, loaded trade history again. Interesting. So now it has updated. So unfortunately, I'm not sure that this is fixing that is exactly what we want to do. It looks like we want to load trade history more than once, but let's show the method that we want to use here. So pretending that this is updating and everything is working fine, what you want to do is not have it say loaded trade history every time that you rotate the app, because you presumably, in a different app that isn't updating every second or every sub-second, you would have the data and it would be somewhat static. So when you rotate the app, you just want to use the same data. And what we want to use here is this field keyword. So field refers to the backing field behind the property. And to explain that, let me quickly new Java class X, that's fine. So, and do not add this to Git. So here, Java, it's a little different. So if we had a string called y and it equals y, this is a field called y that's set to y. But if we have then, let's see, the string get y, and this would return y, and if we need to, and then we'd also have a set y, so then that would be the property part. So this get y part is the property. And in Kotlin, you only get the property part. You don't really get access to this field part. But inside, and we can now delete x.java, delete, inside your getters and setters, you can actually access the field behind the property. So when you type field in here, that's referring to the property. So what you can do is do if field, and field here is, well, let's see the type there, so it's live data of a list of matched orders. And on a live data object, there is this value property, and if you want to read more about that, it's just in this article here. So let's do value, field.value. So it's kind of, we're going to do it kind of like this, but slightly differently. There's a suggestion in the comments down here that makes it a little easier. So field.value, and if this is null, so if it hasn't been set yet, then you want to load the matched orders. So get this and put it in here. And if it has been set, then you just want to use the field. So So what you can do is then we can do, actually I think we can do it this way, return that, or if it isn't null, so if the field.value exists, else you just return the field. And then it's going to tell us this return is unnecessary, so get rid of that. And then we want to move this loaded trade history statement into here. And see what this is saying. Property must be initialized. I wonder why we didn't get that error before. What did it look like? Cancel that. So that's strange that we didn't get that error before. So let's try this. Let's run it and see if that error is for real. It should be. So it should stop us from running it and give us a compiler error. But sometimes that's not the case, because we're building just fine right now, which is interesting. Okay, good. Property must be initialized. And the error is still there, so let's Alt-Enter and see what it says. Okay, equals null. But then you're going to tell us it needs to have a question mark after it, which is, you know, it doesn't need to be null. So, and it threw off our indentation too. All right, so let me comment this out and let's try to figure this out. So in here, if we just return this, no error. But if we return this if statement, we get an error. What if we just return field? That's got to be the problem, right? Yeah, okay, because you can't, you know, if the field hasn't been set, you can't return the field. That makes sense. Okay. So then, instead of, let's comment that back out, and I think let's check out the mutable live data. Okay, that's what it uses, mutable live data. Cool. So this then equals a mutable live data of list of match orders. And yep, that's the one. And then we need parentheses. And then everybody's happy. And let's run, and we don't need this import. So let's run this again. And this time, we should see that, okay, so let's actually change this to E. Did not load trade history. So we'll get to see both of these. And how did I lose the run it automatically thing? Also, another thing to call out, this E function here is an extension function on any that just logs to the error channel the simple name of the class, whatever class I happen to be in, plus some characters that are easy to search for, and then whatever parameter I provide. So it's just a really simple way to just log with one letter instead of you know, log dot whatever, and then having to pass in 2 parameters. So that just makes it really easy to log. And if I didn't show that long enough, all this is in the GitHub repo. So it should be pretty easy to find. I guess that's going to take a while to load. Keep going. I'll just quickly read the YouTube comments. Cool, doing good. And did we run? Gradle build finished. 1332, shouldn't that be a little more recent? Okay, let's check the logcat. Okay, 1335, that is now. And loaded trade history, good. And if we rotate it, loaded trade history, did this? And then, oh, and it doesn't. So, fun fact, the emulator does not like being upside down. It will not, you know, it doesn't change that for us, which is kind of lame. So let's get this back to upright, and then we'll get this another thing. And it says loaded trade history. Which would mean field dot, right, so we, and here, need to do field equals that. and then return that. Let's see if he's got anything to say about that. If field is that, return field, no, it doesn't really. Okay, so required live data list of match order found unit. So wait, load match order sync returns unit. SY. No, it doesn't. That's not true. So does field want to be unit? Or do we need to set field dot value? Nope. Field is a live data list of match orders, and db.matchorders DAO dot load match order sync is also the same type. So what is this? Which part of this is a unit? So if field.value is null, then he says load users. And let's see, there's a common thing here that is it. Because then this still leaves this load users section unpopulated, which is not very helpful for us. So I would think that makes the field value not null just by returning this as the getter. So field equals, let's come with this out and say it equals 2, and then will it tell us int is the wrong type? Still says require. How are you finding a unit there? Interesting. So I'm just going to run this and make the compiler tell it to me again. Oh, no, I know what it's doing, so. Yeah, okay, there we go. So what it was referring to was that we needed to return. So we're inside this return statement here, and we're returning the field. So we needed, so setting the field here, this field equals db.matchordersDAO.loadMatchOrderSync. This whole statement of it, so basically the equal sign, is unit. So even though both sides of this are live data list of match order, this statement, the whole line, returns a unit. So what we were doing was returning the unit for this, which is not what we need because this is a live data list of match orders, which actually when this is specified over there, we still need this part. No. So then to return field, you just do that. And so really, we can rewrite this by getting rid of the return here. So if that, then we set field there. And then regardless, down here, we just return field. So this way, and I think that should do it, right? Or what are you complaining about now? Oh, it does want us to specify that. Or rather, we can just do this as live data, which is apparently abstract. So we'll put our type back, live data of list of match orders, and then everybody is happy. So now, if the field value is null, we will set the field using our loaded trade history and then return it. And if it's not null, we'll just return the value. And this should keep us from resetting it every single time we rotate the device, which again may not be the best solution for this app, but is a pattern you're going to have to get used to. So let's give that a second to run. All right, so we've got that, and then let's just pull up logcat here. So we've got loaded trade history, and then rotate it, and This has nothing. Perfect. So it did not reload anything. So you'll notice that, remember before, when we rotated the device, after using the view model instead of the database directly, it actually updated the screen because we reloaded the trade history. So here, if we rotate it back this way, still the same orders. We didn't reload anything, and it's not updating, which is bad. But again, we're showing off this view model usage. So there we go. Definitely not updating the screen, which is bad, but also not loading the trade history every time we rotate the device. So what this demonstrates is that the view model, this trade history view model, is alive throughout the entire history of the app, which is really cool. But also a little confusing to me because we create an app class, like, so let me just quickly, Kotlin, let's call you app, and you will be a class. And here, maybe we'll add you to Git, not sure yet. We can extend application, which, what do you want? Change to constructor, yeah. So if you extend the application, anything inside your application class has a life cycle of the app, the whole app, which is pretty nice. You can do, anything you need to have a super huge life cycle in here. So we're kind of just using that same theory, but now with this view model object, which I presume, ties in a little better to the activity lifecycle rather than just saying be alive for the whole app. I would assume you can do it with view model so that it will play nicely with on destroy and on start and on resume and all that stuff. But again, you can create an app class and extend the application class, and then you can do Control O, not Command O, on create. You can get a notification when the application is created, and then in here you can get application context, and so you can do all sorts of stuff in here before the activity is even created, and it'll live after the activity is not created all the way until your app's process is built. So that's pretty cool. And then also if you create an app class extending application, or whatever you want to call it, you will need to declare it in your manifest using, I think, name. Let's see, Android name. Yeah, so then you just declare it in your manifest like that. But let's delete that for now. Might add that back in a minute, but just since we're not quite there yet. Okay, so that gives us that, and I guess we can leave that log message for now. It's not hurting anything. So let's try and figure out why it's not updating the data. So, or actually, leave that to do. These two functions are fine. They're a little messy, but it's nice to have these while we're still debugging things. But let's get this. So we can take this database and we can create this in that app class that I just deleted, and then it would be available to all of these classes to use kind of statically, which would be nice, but I don't know how, composable that is. So I'm not sure that's the best approach. But one thing that I did want to do is, so here we've got this drawer layout that we need access to presumably somewhere else, or why are we creating this? Let's find out. Activity, app drawer, so no reason. So I guess let me show that and then we can just get rid of this entirely. So normally when you declare a view in Android, you would need to declare it as null first because you can't have access to it until the onCreate function, which happens after this class is initialized. So you need to set it to null and then re-give it a value once you're in onCreate. But something you can do is use this late init keyword, and then you don't have to set it to null, and we don't have to assert that it is null down here. And what late init does is it just says, hey, this variable is going to be initialized late. It's going to be initialized, and it's going to be initialized in time, but it's not going to be initialized right when the constructor is called. So you can do that. But since currently our drawer layout isn't being used anywhere, I think we can just do this and then make this a val inside make it a local variable inside this function. And oh no, that doesn't work because of the scope for this guy. And I can't just, can I just declare it as final? that a keyword in Kotlin? Doesn't look like it. Not app goal to layout. Okay, so let's go back to the late init approach. So that looks like the way to go for that. And then let's test this real quick. Make sure it still works. And I guess we haven't even showed off the drawer yet, but we will see it here in a second. So any day now. All right, so this is going to kick off, and we're going to be running, and it says loaded trade history, which means this is coming up. Great. And we don't have a title bar yet, but we can drag in from the left to see what we've got in our navigation drawer. And just because I think this is fun to show, the navigation drawer is done in Anko. So this is the layout right here. We've got our drawer layout. Then we've got the relative layout for the adapter, or not the adapter, for the trade history view. So the trade history view is this part. It is a relative layout with the background color of primary color, which is just specified right here. And again, putting something outside of a class like this makes it available to the whole package. So we can just call these colors pretty easily. And then, so we've got the adapter, and we set the recycle view, and blah, blah, blah. This gives us the trade history section. And then whatever you put in the bottom and give a gravity of some side will be the navigation drawer. So we're using this nav drawer class that we've created. So if we go into nav drawer over here, got this nice way of doing it where I get to use a loop, which makes it really, really easy. So it's just a linear layout, and we use underscore linear layout so that we can use this .lparams to set the width and height and such pretty easily. And then if you wanted to set other properties of lparams, you could do that and put them in here. So like margin would be one of them. But we don't need to do any of that right now. But getting back to what I just really like about it is being able to create an array of kind of what you want to see and then doing it in a loop. So for each item, I create a text view, set the color to white, give the text a size, give it some padding, and set an on-click action. And the action we just pass in up here as some function that returns nothing. And we toast that page. Toast being an Anko function that just shortens toast from that long toast nonsense to just toast. And there's another version called long toast, actually, for when you want to do the 3.5 second version. I think it's 2 and 3.5 seconds for regular toast versus long toast. So in a normal toast statement, you pass in toast.length short and toast.length long. But with Anko, you can just do toast and long toast as long as you have access to a context. Which, do I even need that there? Yeah, I do. Okay, so back in the app, we can see that we can click on these, it'll close the drawer and say order book. And it closes the drawer because in main activity, we pass in drawer.closeDrawers as the function here as a lambda that returns nothing. So pretty cool. Okay, so that's the nav drawer. Now let's get back to why the app is not updating. So we should be observing this, and why would it be that changing it from the database itself to a view model stops updating it? And actually, this WebSocket should not be part of the activity either. And it shouldn't, you should definitely need access to it. Actually, let's see, where do we use WebSocket? WebSocket, where do you go? Oh, cool. So I think I've got an opportunity here to use a lifecycle or the lifecycle class or whatever, which would be really nice. So, and I actually have a test project up for that. Actually, let me make sure everybody's doing good. Awesome. So, back at where are you hiding? Other project. There you are. So this is something cool that you can do is when you're using a lifecycle activity, or what would be, an activity once they've finished getting this out of beta, you won't need to use lifecycle activity or lifecycle fragment anymore. You'll just be able to use activity or app-compat activity or whatever. So you've got this lifecycle guide that you can add an observer to, and then things will happen on certain lifecycle events. So I think we can do that with our WebSocket, because it looks like this is it. This is all that's being used. We got the WebSocket, which is my WebSocket, and then we shut it down. So, and that's all that's in this on destroy. So let's do, how would we pull that out? Can we make my WebSocket a lifecycle, whatever that thing was? What class was that? Nope. Here. A lifecycle observer. So let's try to make it up back to Android Studio. There we go. I'm big in you. Turn it up to Rumba. Get this guy in here. And so lifecycle observer. I'm not going to complain about that. Nice. And then shutdown is a function that needs to be called. But what we do with the lifecycle observer part is like close the WebSocket listener. Press forward stuff in here. Okay, so I guess I'll put it at the top to make it easy to find. I'm not entirely happy, or I haven't played around with this enough to know where I like everything to be in these classes. But let's go with at lifecycle on lifecycle event, and then in here. Lifecycle, which is all one word, I guess. Lifecycle dot event dot. Oh, lifecycle, do you need to be imported? Oh, that's right. You got to spell it right. Lifecycle imported dot event dot on destroy, and then function on destroy, story on destroy, and then in here we just call shutdown, which actually that's sort of redundant. Let's just move this tag down to here. Boom. All right, that should get called on destroy. And remember, we're seeing, actually, is this still running? Should be. When we rotate this, and this should be for sure, you should be very sure that it's not updating now, that this is almost 10 minutes behind. But if we rotate this, there it goes, still 10 minutes behind, definitely not updating. We get this message, which is from right here. So this close actually logs this stuff, whatever that means. And what does that mean? So Command Control B, close, attempts to initiate a graceful shutdown of this WebSocket. Any already enqueued messages will be transmitted before the close message is sent. This returns true if a graceful shutdown was initiated, and false if it was already underway or it was already closed or canceled. And we pass in a code and a string reason. That's funny. Immediately and violently release resources held by this WebSocket. I wonder what violently means in the context of programming. That is a funny word there. Okay, so this doesn't mention that it logs, so am I logging that? WebSocket, close. So what we can do is we can go to this E guy and use Control P. There we go. Okay, so we are logging that. That's on closing. So I just couldn't see that because I'm blind. Or maybe I was scrolled too far down. Okay, cool. So WebSocket gives us these methods that we are logging, so logging a bunch of stuff in this one, I guess because failures are bad. That makes sense. Sure. Okay, so we've got onDestroy there. So what we want to do is check that we can command main activity, and now we can delete this whole override to onDestroy. Oh, how cool is that to put your onDestroy stuff in another class? Oh, lots of fun. Nice. All right, so now my WebSocket is a WebSocket and a lifecycle observer. And onDestroy, it should call shutdown, which is going to close the WebSocket and trigger this onClosing call, and we'll get our close tag. And it should be just the same as it is before. So again, this is using a lifecycle observer and then an annotation of @onLifecycle event, and then you can pass in multiple events if you want by putting them in an array, which we don't need to do, so I'm not going to do that. And then you name this whatever you want. It doesn't have to be onDestroy, so I think shutdown should work. And I guess while that's loading, I'll check the comments again. Ethan asks, where did I learn to code? That's a good question. Just really by Googling and struggling through it. I know after I finished working on a ton of the Android content for Treehouse, I thought, man, everybody who's learning through the content that I've made, it would be so much faster at learning this than it takes to dig through the docs, because the docs are really opaque, or at least they were 4 or 5 years ago when I was figuring all this stuff out. Now they're a little better, but it's still easier to watch videos, I think. So yeah, lots of doc reading and just tons of little apps, just like this one right here. So I mean, this app is a nothing. It just logs this, random text that I typed in just to see if it even did anything. So, whenever I find something new, I think the best way to figure it out is just to make the smallest possible app you can. Make an MVP, minimum viable product, and just see how it works. And then, if you figure it out, then you can bring it into your other projects. I think that's probably the easiest way to figure it out. But of course, first you have to have something to tell you how to get even that far. So it's nice that these days, at least, there's a lot more places to figure that stuff out, like Treehouse and other things. Okay, so we've got loaded trade history down there, which means we have loaded back up. And if we rotate this, it should destroy. And we want to rotate this way so it doesn't go upside down, because it hates being upside down. Oh, we got failure. That's cool. Oh, wow. One of them will fail if we go back to. Huh. Now, how does that work? Oh, neat. Okay. Okay, so when you receive an order from GDAX, every single order, every single message that you receive from GDAX has this sequence, which tells you what order the message was. So the first message might be a received order, and it would have a sequence of 1. And then maybe that found a match. So the next would be maybe a done message, and it would have a sequence of 2. And the sequences should always be unique, because every single message is going to be just one right after another. And so the fact that this is a unique constraint failed is obviously a little disconcerting. So let's put in a log here to see if this is getting called. Shut down. And then run this again. So I wonder why that should just, oh, wait a minute. We skipped a step here. Yes, I did. There it is. So, which will be verified here once this log statement comes through. So, if we go back to that other project that I have, should be really, oh darn, is that other project behind Chrome? There we go. What? Maybe I minimized it. Bring that up. Yes. So this guy, we're not doing this. So we should call that. That's important. So without adding the observer, it isn't there. Obviously a problem. So if we rotate this, we should not see our shutdown message because we have not added anything there. So in here, we want to call on create lifecycle dot add observer. And what's nice is now we don't even need this property up here. We only need it one time right here. Cool. So get rid of that. All right, and then now for the red squigglies, we can run this. Go back to being big, please. Go ahead, you can pick up the whole screen. Cool. And all right, so that should run. And now that we've added the observer, which is a very important step, we should see our shutdown message and then our closing message. And I'm really not sure how that manifested as a constraint failure on the database. I mean, I understand that if you put in a sequence that already exists, you're going to get a constraint failure. But I don't know how that happened exactly by not adding the lifecycle observer. Actually, you know what I bet happened? I bet it created then multiple WebSockets, and then you had two WebSockets trying to insert at the same place, maybe? Like you'd receive the message twice instead of once. That's probably what it was. Well, that's why you got to shut down the WebSocket. Just a guess, but you know, makes sense. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna rotate you this way. Actually, let's show again so I can see. Upside down, no good. Rotate this way. And shut down. Close 1,000. Goodbye, world. Fantastic. So that totally worked and is really cool. Nice. Okay, so back in my WebSocket, let's not log that anymore because it just worked, so that's awesome. One space there. I'm going to minimize the imports. Why not? Okay, so we're done with the WebSocket for now. Let's bring this part back, and what this is going to do is log every single message, which is going to be really, really annoying in the log, which we'll see in a second. But having those messages logged to us will allow us to verify that we are getting matched order messages, that they're just not going to the screen. So basically what it'll be that that data is in the database, it's just not getting pulled to our trade history view. And then, so once we've verified that that's what's going on, we should be able to make, hopefully, a little headway on this issue right here. But actually, let's first get this DB out of here. Yeah, you know what? Let's just do, let's put that app class back. I might take it out later, but for now, and we'll add it to Git, make it extend application, do that, and then on here we get Control O on create, and then on create, let's do whatever we had in here. Cut out the database. Yeah, we're just going to get some error through here, right? Okay, but what we can do is put that back. It does accept this. So then we can grab, I'm going to do this by memory. This is sort of a cheesy way. I don't know that I'd recommend doing it this way yet because it feels wrong to me, but I like it a little bit. So we're going to have another val db equals this dot db. How do I do that? Right, so because we don't have a context out here, so that var db which is a, whatever this returns, bill app database. So this is going to be an app database is null, and then db equals that, which is good, and then this db equals how did I do that? Me. Nope. Chrome's cool. Go ahead, open Chrome. Treehouse shared preferences. Kotlin. Yep. So, referencing some code I wrote a while ago here. Where is that code? Activity. Okay. That's what it is. So we move this into here, which companion object, anything in the companion object is kind of like a static variable in Java. But, okay, so now that we've got that, what we can do up here is that val database equals, no, not equals, by lazy. Let's see if I got that syntax right. Maybe. db or app.db that. Okay, so what it should do is we can't create, actually, could we late init it instead? Probably. This works too. Okay, so explaining what this does is we're going to get our database and the onCreate method of the application. And since we need a context, we have to do it in onCreate or at some point, you know, in the activities onCreate or at some point once we've actually got a context. You can't do it in the constructor, which is here. Or in Kotlin, if you needed a little more room for your constructor, there is the init block. Okay. But so we get the database, which we have to set equal to null to begin with because, again, no context. Which then gives us a problem of this database, which we could access by app.db, could be null, which is lame. So what we do here is we say, whenever somebody uses db, and what by lazy means is that we aren't going to evaluate this statement. So we're not going to set this value and evaluate this statement until somebody uses this. And since this is being set to something that is not null as the very, very first thing in the application, I think we can make that super true by putting it above the onCreate. We'll see if that causes an issue. That it will not be null, and we can safely assert that it's not null, and then here we have package-wide access to our database just by saying db. So then back in main activity, we can say nothing, it's done. So there we've got db and db, if we can command and control B, jumps us to here, and through this sort of song and dance, which might be able to be improved a little bit, but this is what I've been doing. We can just access the db, which also means inside our view model, go ahead and get rid of this guy, and we're still fine because remember db is available to the entire package statically and isn't null, so we don't have to do any annoying asserting that it's not null or kind of return null if it's null deal instead of throwing an error. But one thing to mention that we can't do is, let's not go into an abstract class. App database. I think that was the abstract one. Well, whatever. Pick interface. Okay, so in here we can't do db because it doesn't exist in this package of gdax.data. You can import it and then use it, which is what I'll typically do, but just know that you do have to import it if you want to use it in a different package. It is only static inside its package. which in this case is the com.treehouse.gdax package, versus this one, which is the data package. Okay, let me see if there's any questions on that stuff. Cool. No Jack Away asks, is it possible to make mobile apps in Python? I think so, but I don't really know. Not positive. I assume you can, because you can make mobile apps in C# with Xamarin, and you can use JavaScript with React, and there's just all sorts of stuff you can do, but that doesn't mean that necessarily that it's the best way to do it. And Sagnik asks, what's .kt? That would be just the file extension for a Kotlin file. So all of these are Kotlin files, which is the new language supported officially by the Android team. It's really cool that they have allowed Kotlin to be officially supported. All right, so we pulled database out into the app class, and then, as I mentioned earlier, to get this to work, we're going to need to add the name property. There we go. Let me autocomplete it, please. .app. And then let's run this, make sure it still works, which it should. But that just makes it so that that database stuff, we don't have to create more than one database. And I think we'll still have the issue of it not updating, but we'll find out. So, get back over here. App should be running now, or getting there. Almost. Oops. That's not good. It was probably really loud. I knocked the mic over. If anybody's wondering why that was probably so loud. And let's say no to a spam phone call there. Okay, so are we running yet? Why are you wanting me to search for stuff? For the record, I didn't search for any of that stuff. I don't search for things on the emulator. All right, are you still on, Mike? That's important. So cool. Mike's still on. We're good. All right, we got the code. It ran. Looks good. We can rotate it. And oh, actually, if we look at the log, we're going to see a ton of stuff. So let's actually just rotate it back and look at the log. 264. Wait, is it updating again? Huh. Now that's interesting. Did I fix it by putting the database in the app class? Really? All right, let's pull up the example stuff here. Get the emulator back and check how we're doing. That's 100% up to date right now. 14, 15, 02. We've got a couple from 02. Oh, there they are. All right. Guess that did it. So to recap, yep, there we go. So to recap, the fix there was to, I guess, move the database to the app class. Why would that be? Let's think. So we had a database in the activity, right? We had, was it because there was two? That might be it. Okay, so I just hit Control-Z a bunch, took my computer a little bit to think there. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and guess that the issue is that there was a database here that we're creating and using for the WebSocket, and then there was also this other database inside the view model that we were using. So Yeah, I think that was the issue. I think the issue is that this database that we created in here was not the database we were passing to the WebSocket. So by updating this to only have one database that we create in the app class, that database was both getting passed to the WebSocket here and being used by the view model. So that's my best guess as to why that got fixed, and it sounds right to me. So let's go with that. So again, looking at the app class, this is now the only instance where we are calling room.database builder. And let's just double check that with Control-Shift-F. No, wait, Craig. So actually, let's show that first. So find in path, that'll Control-Shift-F will search everywhere. So room.database. Yep, so there we've just got the one right there where we're creating it, so good. And then another thing that Craig showed me the other day is you can hit Shift-Shift and search. So I don't know if this searches in files. So for Shift-Shift, let's try that. Room.database. No, so that I think maybe this is more like searching for files. Let's search for message parser, which is a file name for us over there. So message parser. Cool. Wow, that's nice. So if you want to open a file really quickly, just Shift-Shift, search for the file, open it. Another thing I love doing is Control-Tab to switch between your tabs up here, and Control-Shift to go backwards. That's pretty nice. But okay, so that fixed that issue. That's really cool. Oh, good, because didn't have a great handle on why that was happening, but now I do. Awesome. So let's just look at that again, make sure it's still going. 1739. We're a little behind now, but it was updating. So it's probably just behind and sort of it gets behind kind of way. Yeah, so here we are, we're catching up. So yeah, it just gets a little behind for whatever reason. Internet's slow, emulator's slow, who knows, but it catches up eventually, and it's only behind by a few seconds, so that's pretty good. Cool. Let me check if there's any questions on stuff. Nice, doing good. So, whew, that's a lot that we've gotten done so far. And just let me take a quick recap of everything. We moved the DB over to here, which makes it available everywhere, which is awesome. And other cool thing we did is we got the WebSocket as a lifecycle observer, meaning that we can have it call destroy itself. Rather than needing to override the onDestroy function in our activity, we just need to add it as an observer. Really simple. And actually, why are we passing in a database to our WebSocket and our adapter? What's the point of that? I mean, actually, you probably should pass it in because that's the, a good way to do it. But as it is now, our database is statically available in this package, so we don't need to pass it in. So while it is better code practice to have your dependencies and let them be passed in, for now, we've got it just statically available, and that's treating us well. So let's just leave it like that and just get rid of this stuff. So again, if you're following good practices and you want to be able to test everything, then you might want to have this take in a database. So if we were testing this WebSocket class and we wanted to test it in isolation, which is how you should test it, you'd want to have a mock database that you're passing into the WebSocket to test on, rather than well, I mean, I guess you could still use a static database for that, but it strikes me as less robust than passing in. So you want your dependencies to be passed in like that. But I think if I was really going down that path, A, I'd need to be a lot better at Dagger, and then B, we'd want to do dependency injection and all that sort of stuff, which I think is sort of beyond the scope of this project, just because I'm not so good with Dagger, and everything I've read about it makes it sound complicated. and it's easier for me to just show it this way, especially with DB just being accessible. I mean, that's so easy. I love just being able to call that, even if it's not necessarily the best way to do it. All right, so let's close a bunch of this stuff and see where we should go from here. All right, got 40 minutes left, and we've got, you know what, we should have a bar at the top, right? We should say, like, GDAX or something, and we should have a little button here that we can click to bring out the drawer layout. So let's do that. That is going to be an app bar. So get rid of the adapter, don't need the viewModel anymore, manifest, change order, or WebSocket. All right, back in activity, and I prefer 2 spaces instead of 4, as it makes everything a little easier to see, both for me and for you. So, okay, and I should probably change that setting too, but that's okay. All right, get this out of the way, and we need to get an app bar. So let's look here, Android app bar layout. What do I use here? And this is reference, so maybe that's good. So when it's the reference, that means it's, you know, this with all the class stuff, and sometimes it's, I forget what the other one is, but it's like a guide or something that has a little more to it than that. So, right, we'll need to use a coordinator layout too. And it's been a little bit since I've done one of these. So app bar layout is a vertical linear layout which implements many of the features of Material Design's app bar concept. Many of the features of Material Design's app bar concept. That doesn't sound like a real sentence. Namely, scrolling features. Children should provide their desired scrolling behavior through set scroll flags and the associated layout XML attribute, which the fact that it starts with layout means that it would go in the lparams block. And then this view depends heavily on being used as a direct child within a coordinator layout. If we use an app bar within a different view group, most of its functionality will not work. So next question for me is app bar inside of drawer layout or outside of drawer layout? App bar drawer layout. See if we can find some example code for that. So this guy's got coordinator layout, then the app bar with toolbar in it, and then the drawer layout. And this person says your coordinator layout is wrapping your drawer layout and navigation view, which means the coordinator is in control of how everything is laid out. You need to nest the coordinator inside the drawer. There we go. All right, so we need drawer as the outside, then coordinator, then app bar, then toolbar. So let's start with, let's see, where does this coordinator end up? Goes around everything. It's got this navigation view, whatever that is. Oh, that's going to be the drawer part of the drawer layout. Okay, so drawer layout, it's got the drawer. So instead of a relative layout, we want this to be a coordinator layout. Yes? Yeah. So let's change this to a coordinator. Coordinator layout. And then inside the coordinator layout, we want an app bar layout. So app bar layout. And inside the app bar layout, we want a toolbar. So toolbar. Right? Yep, toolbar. And then let's do the toolbar.lparams, and let's give it a height. Or I don't know if we need to give it a width of match parent. Let's do it. Width equals match parent, and height equals, and just in case you don't want to type out the names of these guys, width and height are the first 2 parameters here. So you could just do match parent and whatever I'm about to type here, which let's just go as DIP 50, so 50 dp. And then toolbar title, is the name of it, so let's go title equals, let's just say GDAX, and then let's run this and see what that does. I'm going to move this background color thing up into coordinator layout, so it's clear that that's for the coordinator layout. And then we've got the app bar, and then below the app bar, we've got the recycle view. Which we could move this linear layout manager to down here, except for we have to set it. But you know what? Let's move it anyway, because it would be nice to have that exist in the recycle view, because it is part of the recycle view, and it makes this a little easier to read. And let's do the same with the adapter. So I'll cut the adapter out, and then where do we use the adapter? Right there. So adapter, and then I don't think we could do adapter, right? Because adapter would be the wrong type for that. It wouldn't have trades after, right? Right. Okay, so you'd have to cast it. Well, let's not cast it. Let's just leave it as my adapter. That's fine. And then this will make the recycler view a little easier to see, and we can put a little space there too to see that then this is from the coordinator layout with match parent and match parent. Awesome. Okay. So we do have a little GD up here. So let's pull this down, go into settings, and from settings, which I think I clicked, yep, we can go to the bottom. And if you don't have developer options, you can Google how to do that, but it's like click 7 times in the about thing down there, I think, or something like that. And in the developer options, we can click on my favorite developer option, which is a display section or drawing section, and show layout bounds. So, and actually let me point out another one that I like. Let's turn that off real quick. Where are we? There's one to show the cursor. Maybe that's up at the top. This is web view, debugging. Maybe I've missed it. Pointer location. Nope. Show taps. Yeah, so I kind of like show taps for if you're recording something, like if you're recording the screen on your device to show maybe users how to do something, it's nice to have taps on to see this little dot that comes up around the cursor. They can see very clearly what you're doing with your finger or mouse or however you're manipulating the emulator. So turn that off because I don't want that on right now. And let's show the layout bounds, which again shows us all this stuff. So I think this pink stuff is padding. You can see these are padded, and you can see that this on box is that wide. So that's interesting. And we can come back to the app here using the recent apps button. And see that our app bar is real small here. No bueno. So this match parent is matching the width of the app bar layout, which is not set, which is probably makes it small, I guess. So let's add .lparams and just say match parent, which should turn purple. And that's from the Anko class. And fun fact, match parent, we want lparams, yeah, that's wrong. lparams, and just say match parent, and that would do it to width, I believe. But you know, it's nice to be strict about these things. So match parent, switch it to this stuff. And a cool thing is if we Control B into this or Command B, we can see that it is just using the match parent constant, which I believe is like 0. Let's see. Match parent is -1, and wrap content is -2. So literally, when you're using match parent, it's just a -1. Fun fact. wrap contents -2. All right, so now with the app bar layout having a width of match parent, the toolbar with the title of GDAX should be able to have a bigger width because each parent has a bigger width. So run this again, and while that's running, I will check the comments and see what's going on. Nice. So let's go back to the app. And it'll run and give us our bar at the top. We hope. We very much hope so. Oh, and we can get rid of this to do because we updated this, fixed that by moving the database out. So that's awesome. And if you're not familiar with how this layout's being done, it's all with Anko. And if you're using Anko yourself and having any issues with it, come into this project, grab all these imports that say Anko, and then you should be good to go. So there's a bunch of different imports that you might need. So for example, the cycle view is not included in the default Anko import, so this guy. So you got to import that separately, which is fine. You just have to know how to do it, or it'll be very frustrating when you're trying to figure it out. So Anko is awesome. I love it, but you do need to get it imported first, which is almost one of the more challenging parts about it, just because there's so many of these little guys. Okay, back to, nope, where'd the emulator go? Emulator, code, emulator, all right, so there we go. We got an app bar, it says GDAX, and yeah, it's the width of the screen. So that's awesome. Let's go recent apps and turn off the layout view that we have. So back in the settings here and tap that off. Come back. Go into GDAX. Okay. And so something we're going to want to do there is definitely change the color of that. So let's redo a background here. Go background. Oops, that's caps. Background. We could do background color probably. Background color equals primary color. Oh, we don't have a dark version. I guess we can try light, see what that looks like. And then let's do text color maybe. Set title text color as, do we have a good color for that? What color are we using for the text and our adapter? Oh, is it green and red? Is there not any white in that? Okay, so it's green and red. And then that's white. I guess white's fine. What color do they use in the app here? Yeah, they use white. So let's use white. Ooh, and we should use this color for the top. How can I figure that out? Let's do, it's Command-Shift-4. Yeah, Command-Shift-4 on Mac. Windows, you can just do print screen, or there's a number of things you can do. So grab a section of this, and I think you can even hear that shutter click, not just me. You can minimize all this stuff. There it is on the desktop. So open with something. Okay, is there a color selector in this? So normally I'd use GIMP or some other program, but I don't have those on this computer. So let's do, give me Chrome. Go to Chrome, get color from image. Oh, Mac, that was, should type that in too. Perfect. So choose file. In desktop, this guy, open, show image, and click right there. Click here, see. So 1E, 2B, 3, 4 is not the color we want, but I do just want to check and make sure it's the color we're using. We don't need this open anymore. Said we don't need this open anymore. All right, go away. Good. So we need to be, yeah, perfect. So primary color light we have as 38454E, but we should really have it as that. So let's change it to that. So I think in the previous video I used another website that'll let you lighten colors by like 10% or 20% or something to just have the same color but lighter. But this time we have found a way to get it in a better way. So let's use primary color light, which should give us the right color, and text color should be white. So color dot white. Will it want me to import the color class, right? Yeah. Okay. And then this should look a little bit better. And actually, thanks to the include keyword and Anko, some of this might be easier to do on the design tab or in XML or with actual layout files like we did for the completed trade view. But I'm hoping this one isn't that complicated and it's easy to just do it in code here. So, but again, you could make a toolbar layout file here and then just use include like this. And then you have to include the file, but it's not going to autocomplete for me right now. There it goes. And so you just use include, and it'll do the same deal. Or you could include here and include and do your app bar layout as the layout instead of the toolbar, so that'd be fine too. All right, so app you should be running now, I thought. There it goes. Hey, look at that. So we've got GDAX. It's got that nice color up top, same one as the app online. So, which again, part of the reason I picked this project is because it's got this nicely defined stuff. I don't have to think too hard about what colors to use or anything. So next thing we want to do is we want to get the little hamburger icon over here. Pretty sure that's what it's called. So, and actually, let's search for, so, toolbar, show, hamburger. Look at that. Yep, that's the icon we're looking for. And yeah, I think that's what it is. One of these to set display home as up enabled or set home button enabled. Let's just try calling those. Set display, set home. No, home. Nope. What about if we make a variable for our toolbar called toolbar? So val toolbar equals, that's not equal sign. So that is where the equal sign is on our keyboard. And then below the toolbar, we can do toolbar dot home. It's interesting that gave us something, but that is not what we're looking for. We got toolbar and draw a listener, action bar. Oh, set support action bar. That's what I need to call. Set support. What? We have to call that on. So let me go this at main activity dot set action bar as toolbar. Okay, let's see what that does. Oh, what are you complaining about? It is a toolbar. Why won't you call set support action bar? Probably because this is not an app compat activity. That is frustrating. And I'm not sure how to get around it. Normally, main activity would be an app compat activity so that you can use backwards compatible stuff. However, this is a lifecycle activity. I don't think there's a lifecycle app compat activity yet. So, how do we set the handle right? Get support action bar. Yeah, that's what you do. So we can, let's pretend we've got that, and then we can do, what was that called? Get support action bar. We type in action bar here. What do we get? Action bar. Set display home up as enabled. True. Okay, so lifecycle activity set action bar. Well, I mean this toolbar, which is a support toolbar, which if we jump into this, all of these are support, which is what they should be. You should always be using the support stuff if you can. But I don't know that we're going to be able to do that. So toolbar, let's just try seeing what happens when we do this. There's no errors anymore, so let's run that. Let's see what we've got. Let's see if there's any comments over here. Nice. So there we've got the action bar, but this action bar that we're referencing, I don't think we've set our toolbar to be that action bar yet. So that's a little tricky. Let's see, let me Google if there's a support lifecycle activity. Support lifecycle activity. Here we go. So app compat activities cannot implement it. Now that's actually really interesting. So since the architecture components are in alpha stage, fragment and app compat activity classes cannot implement it. So until lifecycle is stable, lifecycle activity and lifecycle fragment classes are provided for convenience. So getting back to the fact that this lifecycle stuff is still in beta, so it's not, considered a finished product yet by the team. So after the lifecycles project is released, support library fragments and activities will implement the lifecycle owner interface, and lifecycle activity and lifecycle fragment will be deprecated. So looks like this issue is mostly because we're sort of new into the lifecycle stuff. So I guess let's check the app, see what happened. Yep, just as I thought, we didn't set an action bar, so trying to access the action bar is going to give us problems. So back in the code, let's get rid of that. And then let's try this solution. Let's just let's try that. Let's just see what happens. So I wouldn't normally just copy code from Stack Overflow, especially for something like this, and assume it to do anything good without looking at it a little more in depth. However, Commonsware is super, super active on the Android stuff, and yeah, writes books on this stuff. So this is a trustworthy person here. So we'll see what happens with this. So we're going to need a new class, and I forget what it's called. It is app compat lifecycle activity. App compat lifecycle activity. And it's a class, and when we paste in the code, when we paste in the code here, it should automatically convert to Kotlin. Or will if I check that box, but check it out. When you paste Java code, it converts to Kotlin. Pretty cool. And I'm not a big fan of the M prefix, So Shift 6. Oh, right. My F buttons are a little wonky on here. So registry and copy, paste, and then app lifecycle activity goes here, and everything is happy about that. This type is final, so it cannot be inherited from. So let's copy this bit, and maybe we'll do this instead. Sure, import some stuff. Okay. I'm going to kind of try to hide this. Oh, and we can just put an equals sign for this guy. So instead of get lifecycle and whatever else, just go ahead and equal registry there. Right? Cool. Nice. So now we are using an app compat activity, and whatever I was calling earlier, which Control-Z is going to be painful to use and slow, I think, here, but I don't remember what I was typing earlier. So it was this app main activity, so I'm just going to copy this, and then I'm going to use Control-Shift-Z to bring me back into the future. And then we've got that all done, and then it should still be on my clipboard, so we should be able to come down here and paste that in, and you're going to work, right? Toolbar? Yes. All right. So then, now that we have an action bar, let's do action bar dot set home as up enabled, or whatever it is. Home. Set display home as up enabled. True. And no errors, except for that typo. Okay. And let's actually just do this. Move that there. Is that really all the code it takes to make this into an app compat activity? It seems weird that that wouldn't be released if that's it. Set action bar. Oh, we want set support action bar. Nice. Okay, so set support action bar, because we're now using an app compat activity, which is the kind of activity you should be using, but isn't supported yet in the lifecycle stuff, but is supported if you do this. So what this says up here is that our main activity extends app compat activity and presumably implements lifecycle registry owner, because you can't extend more than one class. So yes, this is an interface, so cool. It extends app compat activity and implements lifecycle registry owner, and overrides this get lifecycle method to do this stuff. So whatever that does. Okay, so run it again. And if that works, we can give a big thank you to Commonsware. And as usual, when that's running, I can check in here, see what's going on. Shvam asks, have I tried Python at all? Yeah, I like Python. I use Python for a lot of stuff. Not any Android stuff, but for really anything where you need to do scripting or just anything other than Android. I find that Python's a really good choice. Mostly because there's just so many libraries and they're so easy to import. Just a lot of support for you with Python from the community. Okay, that should launch and should give us a thing. Let's see. Nope. All right, let's see what the error is. First, let's stop logging all the messages. So remember when I said that if we log the messages as they come in, it's going to be a lot of messages? So it turns out that it is a ton of messages. So you can see that there's some done orders, some received orders. If we watch it enough, we should see some canceled orders even. But let's not watch it. Let's just turn that off. So that is in, I think, the WebSocket maybe? Yeah, so let's turn off this. We don't need to drink from the fire hose anymore. We figured out why. our stuff wasn't updating. Run it again. Unfortunately, that's going to take about 10 seconds. It always does. It's just the life of being an Android developer. At least until they get Instant Run working a lot better. Which it might now. I haven't used Instant Run or tried to use Instant Run in probably 6 months to a year, just because it was so buggy back then, and that it was just causing more problems than it was worth. So maybe one of these days Instant Run, or maybe today, Instant Run is good and the way you should do it, but that was not my experience in the past, and I'm definitely not going to try to switch here on stream. Okay, so we've got another error, except this time we should be able to see the error pretty easily. And I am using the toolbar, so let's check out this error. This activity already has an action bar. You see where we're getting it right there on set support action bar. This activity already has an action bar supplied by the window decor. Do not request window.feature support action bar and set Windows action bar to false in your theme to use a toolbar instead. So while that was fairly clear, let's see if we can't get an example. Use toolbar instead of action bar. So did you do any theme stuff to your activity? No. And he didn't either. Okay, so let's look at what our theme is. Let's do values and styles. Let's go with no action bar. See if that's the key. So we were setting an action bar in our style there, which apparently it existed but wasn't being shown. That's a little strange to me, but I guess that's the case. So we can see here that we've got also all these colors that we're setting with the names from the color class. So if you want to do theming in this way, you can do that. Or I like to keep it simple by just putting them in here sometimes. So they're kind of the same. And if you have access to a context, you can do the same song dance that I did over here to retrieve your colors from the colors XML file and make them statically available. Or you can just retrieve them from the colors XML file. But that takes a, you've got to use like context.get resources.get colors or something. It's just not as short. All right, so did we stop again? Run again. Null pointer exception. Good, I'm used to those. Set display home as up enabled on a null object reference. Cool. So set support action bar did not do it. That's interesting. So action bar, so we can do toolbar set display home as up enabled. Bar dot home. I think that didn't work before. Fantastic. So set support action bar. And let's go back to what we had. Maybe I need to do support action bar. Really? Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's try support action bar, which can be null. Can that be null? Yeah, it can be null. So let's assert that it's not null, so it throws an error. Because if it fails quietly, that'd just be kind of frustrating. And let's stop this because we're going to fail building. Yep, there we go. Fail building. And now we can try running it again. So we've got set support action bar of the activity to be our toolbar. And then we're accessing that support action bar, asserting that it's not null, which it really shouldn't be if we're setting it on the line right before it. And then we're going to set display home as up enabled to true. And if we look in here, it says set whether home should be displayed as an up affordance. Okay. Really wish we could use better descriptions than that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Without having to think about it a whole lot, it should be very clear without me having to think a lot. So that's building and running, and we'll see if we get an error. I guess I can check comments again. Get a mod mic. I'll have to look into getting a mod mic. Although one of the issues that I'm definitely having with this using the MacBook is that just running it all. If you're hearing the static in the background, that's the fan. So it's really loud, and there's not a whole lot I can do to not pick up the fan sound. So when I'm not talking, how you can tell that it gets a little quieter is because we've got a nice filter on the OBS stream to take that away, which is really cool that works. But unfortunately, I did get a message from one of the sound guys from Treehouse. We're going to see what we can do about that. But it is better than it was using the mic on the laptop. So nobody had to hear that, but I did test it like that, and it's just awful. Having the mic right next to the fan, it just sounds like, it's no good. Okay, look at that. So we did get a little button there. Nice. So now we need to change this button to be the right button. And where the heck did our stuff go? That's no good. So is that, if we comment out that line and run it, do we lose our bar? And does our recycle view come back? Because we really want the recycle view to keep displaying the trade history. That's somewhat important. And in here, can we grab the icon? Maybe, maybe not. Nope. Let's just control space and see what we do have in here. Control space, please. It's thinking. Should be running. Okay, so we took that out, and we're still not seeing anything. So, let's figure out how far back we've got to go to make this work. And then it looks like we might have to push finishing out the app bar until next week. Mostly because apparently using it with a lifecycle activity or whatever we're doing up here to make it a lifecycle activity is not quite working. So actually, I'm guessing that these aren't the issue that's causing our trade history not to display. I'm guessing, yeah, unfortunately. I think it is this code up here, so let's walk this back to being a lifecycle activity, since we should leave the project for this week's commit and a project and a state that it works. That's very important to me. Don't want anybody pulling down a project that doesn't work. And then we won't be able to call set support action bar. So I'm not really sure how we're going to resolve that. We might have to actually use, instead of Anko, we might have to do this with a layout file so that we can use, or maybe Anko gives us a regular toolbar, but I'll leave these commented out and just run it to make sure that it still runs. We might have to use so here toolbar, if we control V into what Anko is giving us, it is using a, right there, so Android support V7 widget toolbar, so this is the support toolbar, And if Anko doesn't give us access to the regular toolbar, it might be easier just to create a layout for the toolbar. So that might be the path we take in the next video to fix this. But currently, we should have a toolbar that says GDAX. It should not have a button on it and should not be able to really do much. And there's nothing's hooked up to the coordinator layout yet, so when we scroll, the toolbar should stay there. But eventually we'll want it so that when we scroll, the toolbar will go away, and then when we scroll back down, the toolbar will come back down, just like I'm sure you've seen in a bunch of apps, which is, probably a best practice, and just cool that we can do that. So let's make sure that this runs, and then I will stop the stream and push it up onto GitHub. And if it doesn't run, we're going to make it run first. And we also changed the style to be no action bar, which could have an effect on some of this stuff. So it's good to keep that in mind as well. Okay, so there we've got back the, oh, and look at that, it does go away already when we scroll down. Oh, that's not it going away necessarily, is it? It's just, so if I scroll down a whole bunch here, and then I scroll up, do we notice that the toolbar is not coming onto the screen, and we want it to be coming onto the screen. So what's happening here isn't that the toolbar is behaving as we want it to, the toolbar is just at the top of the layout. So if we go all the way back to the top, we should see the toolbar again. Boy, how far did I scroll down? Scroll me to the top, please. 1427, 1430-some, 52, 57. There we go. So scrolling back to the top, we can get the toolbar to show up, but ideally we'll want that to show up. So if I scroll up right here, the toolbar should show up. So we'll fix that, fix a bunch of these toolbar issues in the next video, as well as adding the little hamburger icon, making it the right color, making it so that if we click right here, making it so that we click, it opens the drawer. Right now we can still open the drawer by sliding in from the right-hand side, but we'll add a little more pizzazz to the drawer next week once we finish out with the app bar, which shouldn't be too long once I'm able to figure out what's going on with that. So, cool. Looks like the project's working. Really nice. And if we let's real quick just check if I rotate it, put us back into Chrome here, and watch it update for just a little bit, make sure everything's going good. So we got 1502.36, and since we rotated it, that should, throw a wrench in things. So we'll rotate it back this way. Oh, wait, that puts it upside down. That's no good. And then there we go. So finish your rotating screen. Let's make sure it's updating. So that's at 1503.08. There's only been 2 more trades since then, this one and this one. And I expect those to be coming in any second now. All right, so there we go. We're updating. All looks good. And I'll push this right after the stream today. And let's check. Oops. Well, I guess I closed YouTube, so I'm not checking comments right now. But anywho, thanks for joining us for the stream. And next week we will move on with the app bar and bring it in the drawer layout and just do that. So awesome. See ya. Or rather, see ya once I can find the button. There we go.